Hi Stampers! This is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. Welcome. Again, my name is Lisa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Everything that I use is Stampin' Up! Related, and I'm excited to share it with you. Today we are working on a waterfall card. Oops, which is of course hard for me to move in the air like that. But we're going to figure out how to do this mechanism. I've had a couple people tell me it looks really confusing, and I'm going to try to take the confusing part out of it. That's my job as a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and a teacher of paper crafting. I love to take things that look kind of complicated and try to make it easy for you. This is our card, and this is the waterfall technique. It's how it does this little flip. And so we're going to start out with, oh, I meant to bring over my die cutting machine. We get to play with a new die cutting machine and its magnetic plate today too, so fun stuff. We're starting out, of course, with our card base. We always have a standard card base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4 for this one. We're going to layer a piece of Designer Series paper over that. This is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. If you don't like 8s, you can go ahead and do 4 by 5 1/4. It's not going to make a huge difference. It's just going to change the outside border. I wanted it to have a small border, but a 1/4 inch would be fine. For the strap across the front here, I have a 4 1/4 by 1 inch. Our moving mechanism here is 10 1/4 by 1 7/8. You're going to score that at 2, 2 3/4, 3 1/2, 4 1/4, and 5. Okay, so that's just going to give us a little score line every 3/4 of an inch. And that's what's going to make this thing move. Okay, I promise it's not complicated. You're going to get this. Okay, the next thing I have is a little piece that's going to be our message that gets revealed, which is 5 inch by 1 3/4. I'm going to put a little piece of our in color ribbon on the bottom so they know that there's something to pull on, and I'm going to create a little notch at the bottom, and you can do that with our framelit dies, or I'm going to do it with an 1.5" punch. This is the inside of our card, 4 by 5 1/4. This is what I'm going to cut out the hello, and it's approximately 1 inch by 5 1/2. I think this is a little more, but you need 1 inch by 5 inch approximately to cut out your hello. I'm going to mount that onto the 5 2x2 squares in each of the 5 in colors. There's the other one, that are 1 7/8 by 1 7/8. Again, if that freaks you out, you can do 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. It will be fine. So that's all of our pieces. Like I said, I was going to start with our hello. We're going to start out with the playful alphabet. And we're going to use the Stampin' Up! Adhesive sheets so that they're going to be stickers. We just spent our, I don't know, 500th weekend of the year locked inside. Getting really tired of 2020. The good news is we did have some orders to work on for my husband's business. He's got his laser machine up there going, and it had some funky noises. He was really stressed out when it started making this really odd noise, and we didn't know what it was. It turns out it was really simple. It was just a little cheap, probably a $5 fan on the inside. So we got that fixed. That was exciting because that's all we needed was for that machine to break down, right? Okay. Here's our, like I said, this is going to be for our letters. So I'm going to put adhesive sheet on the back. And I cut it a little too big. I have a tendency to do that. I cut things too big in fear of cutting them too small, but that kind of sometimes wastes products, so try not to do that like I do. So we have adhesive sheet on our strip of cardstock. This is an adhesive remover. It's just a piece of rubber that works great for pulling off any excess adhesive that you have. it's going to go just as we talked about before. We're going to do plate number 1, plate number 2, and then for plate number 3, the first one, we're going to replace it with plate 5. This is our magnetic platform, and it's nice and skinny. It's consistent magnet all the way across, and it's self-healing. So you can kind of tell I've already used it. And it has a little bit of a mark, but it's not too bad. We'll see how that goes over time. And then we're going to have the plate number 3 that's going to go on top. Playful Alphabets. If you guys don't have this yet, you probably want to consider it. It's a really cute way to add kind of a bigger, bolder sentiment to a card. I'm going to use the word hello out of this, and I like that it has 2 L's. There's 2 A's, 2 E's, 2 I's, 2 L's, 2 O's, 2 N's, 2 P's, R, S, T. I mean, there's just like duplicates of a bunch of them, so it's really great that I'm not going to have to cut out my word and then stop and, you know, cut out the additional letters because I need the letter more than once. It's already going to be on there. And of course I don't need to, I'm trying to lay it straight, but really I don't have to because I'm not using the negative, I'm only using the positive. I'm going to use the actual letters. If you wanted to do dual purpose on this, you could take and line up all your letters, you know, exactly. I usually push up from the bottom with a ruler to make sure that they're level, you know, do that whole thing, and then you'd be able to use the negative as well. So you would get 2 cards out of 1. But I'm in a hurry, so we're just going to do the 1. And as you noticed, I was able to nudge all those little letters, and they lined up and they didn't move because they're stuck on there with the magnet. So that was really useful. Well, the magnet's holding them on, they're not falling off. Now, for the most part, when I did this before, they just popped right out. Now, if they don't, that's what the little holes in there are for, is that you can take the die brush and use that to poke it out. You would probably want to put it into take your pick tool and then run it over, but it works without it too. Or if you don't have the die brush part, you can take your pointy end of the take your pick tool and just pop them out that way. Okay, so that's going to be the letters that are going to go on these little squares. And I did a 5-letter word because I wanted to feature our in colors. And so there were 5 new in colors, and I'm using all of them. I'm going to mount them on black, which is a nice neutral. I'm using the Stampin' seal to put these on. And I'm doing that with the little flick of the wrist to make sure that it breaks off up here at the top. Again, I say that every time, but I don't want you to be frustrated. I want things to work perfectly for you. These letters, because I had used the adhesive sheet, they're stickers. I don't know that you'd make them closer together. Maybe you could do 1/2 inch if there were more letters. It depends on how many they were, because I mean, you might have to do like a long landscape type card. There's those new long skinny ones I've seen people do nowadays. It depends on how long the word is. But, you know, let me know. We can work that out together. I can do all the math for you if it confuses you. Now I'm looking at the E because I know the E is going to have to go this way, right? And it's telling me that the short part is on the bottom. So now I know not to put the H on that way. I want to put it on this way. That's the only tricky thing about this alphabet, is it's not exactly centered. When I went online and looked for this card, I found several that only had 4 letters, or they had done little pictures and then just a sentiment at the end. And so I did have to adjust the math to make it fit. But you'll see, as we put it together, it'll make more sense. Okay, so far it's all easy peasy, right? and I'm not exactly centered on that. If you were worried about being centered, what you would do is you would take your little ruler and you would make kind of a little mark this way and a little mark this way, and then that would tell you where your center is, and then you could go back and erase it later. If it happened to fall underneath the letter, no need to erase it, it's already covered up. So if you wanted them to be exactly centered, you can. Again, I don't think anybody's going to notice. They're going to be so wowed by the little movement thing, they're not even going to notice if it's centered. So I'm going to take my designer series paper and adhere it to the front. And again, this could be done for anything. You could do this with, you know, a Christmas card, a Halloween card, a birthday card. It would work for lots of different things. When I put this on here, I want it just a little, like maybe an inch up from the bottom. And all I want to do is I want to put adhesive on the two edges because my mechanism is going to slide underneath of it. And so I can't have it stuck down in the middle or my mechanism will not move. So for that, because it's, like I said, getting movement, I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal Plus, which is just a little bit stronger adhesive. The best way to make sure you're straight is to look straight down on top of it, but since it's off in front of me a little bit, it took me a little longer, but I could also use the lines on the designer series paper for this one, so that was helpful. Okay, so like I said, this is our mechanism. This is going to be the tricky part. And you want them to be able to grab it down here. And so that's why I have it all put together, and then I'm going to come in with my punch and I'm going to center this up and punch out just a little piece that will give them room to grab onto our little mechanism. So when it lays flat, it's going to be in that little notch. And then we'll put a ribbon on it so they know to grab the ribbon. And now we can start putting the mechanism together. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to put adhesive on here, on each of the little sections. Okay, now we're going to start at the bottom, or over here on the right side. And so I'm going to start with the O, and then I'm going to bring in the L, and I'm just lining it up with that score line. So I'm going flush up to the edge of the score line with each of these pieces. Okay, so there's our little flip, right? It's going to have all the little letters. And how we're going to make it move on here is by just putting adhesive right here. And it's going to adhere to the last 2-inch space on here. So the O will be stationary. The O is not going to move. Just all the other ones will kind of slide out of the way as we're moving our card. So I'm going to slide this under here, make sure I'm good and centered within the card and within our little grab hole. I don't know what else you'd call that, the little notch at the bottom. And because this gets the most movement, I'm going to put more adhesive here. That's the one piece I don't want to come off. So it's just, this piece is just kind of rolling and bending each little 3/4 inch piece. Is that making sense? Let me know if I've lost you. Okay, now we can decorate inside. When this pulls all the way out, there's a score line right here. So I can place this centered in here. And I just did it with the press on stamp set. And I want to color this with my Stampin' Blends, and so I'm going to go ahead and use Memento Black ink. Figure we might as well get all our stamping out of the way while I have the ink in front of me. I'm going to do our sentiments in the new color Cinnamon Cider. Hopefully you guys are all subscribed to my YouTube channel. I've been working my way through all of my Facebook Live videos, and I put them up on my YouTube channel, so you can watch them with a little more ease. I try to take these boring moments where I'm just doing some stamping or just doing some coloring, and I speed it up a little bit so you don't get stuck, you know, watching it for longer than need be. I know we all value our time, and I appreciate the time that you set aside for me and learning stamping. That's my way of escape, and I hope it's that for you too. This is Magenta Madness. This again is one of the new colors off the front. So then of course I just take my Stampin' blends, and I'm not going to color them all, but you know, you get the idea that if I'm coloring in Stampin' blends, I'm using Memento black ink. You can use the 2 different colors, or in little tiny things like this, I do just use one. I'm using the dark on the coffee beans. And that was the large brush tip, or you can also use the bullet tip, whatever you're more comfortable with. The bullet tip allows me to stay within the lines a little better, because if you weren't all watching, I'd have my bifocals on. This old lady can't see. And there we go. Our last and final touch is to find the little ribbon I cut. And I'm going to place that down on the bottom, so this kind of tells them that there's something to pull on. So I'm just going to glue that right here, and I'm going to do that with glue dots. If you have our little mini stapler from a couple years ago, you can use that as well. So I have one glue dot down on the paper, and I'm going to do one here in the middle, so that when I pull this over, now there's 2 glue dots in there, one underneath each ribbon. So there's one on the paper underneath, and then one in between where it folded over. And that's all there is to it. Like, look, less than half an hour and it's made. Colored and everything. What do you think? Think you can do this? I'd love to see what you guys come up with the making of this card. And if you would go ahead and post that for me over in the Realm of Creativity Facebook group, I would love that, and I will send you something special in the mail. I have quite a few little embellishments hiding over here in my drawer waiting to award to somebody. And so if you can post your picture of your waterfall card in there, then you will definitely get something from me in the mail as a little thank you. So again, that is the Facebook group, the Queen Bee Creations Realm of Creativity, and you can link there from my Facebook page, which is where you're watching this right now. So thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I just love how our little card came out. So again, if you need any of the materials purchased in this kit, or you've now decided you have to have that Playful Alphabets die set, I would appreciate it if you would pop on over to my store and make a purchase over there. Thanks for joining me. Bye.